One thing that is valuable to even focus on, because I do think that this comes up a lot in this, like, it's come up a few times already with, like, why are we holding on to the past, and that was our ancestors and they did it, they deserve it, and we can compete with them, and we were they are. And I think that inequality, that inequity still is mistaught. I think that's why they want to get rid of critical race theory, because I think it adds to that conversation in the wrong way. But to state it simply, they had the Homestead Act of 1862
Yeah.
that actually just gave away free land. Free land. We all know slavery wasn't over till 1865. And like Daquan pointed out earlier with Jim Crow, you still wasn't really free like that. And so when we talk about, when you say we can compete, no, we can compete to the point where they allow us to compete based on where we are in the race, which feels good because we're light years past where we were. However, we're nowhere near as far as we should be when you've been held back for so long. So when you have companies like Charmin and Nestle and Toll House and all these huge, those factories, there's a reason all the Midwest has all this agriculture and factories and manufacturers, because that's where you make the money. You don't make the money in the city. We in the city. We're in the city trying to get the little money falling off the tree. Out in they got acres and acres and acres and acres with factories and agricultures and farms. They are actually, that's the money. So that's why we want to benefit from what our ancestors did, because they can't. And quiet as it's kept, a lot of the people that's walking around here now, they're benefiting from their ancestors. So while we got the moment we bring it up in conversation, it's like, oh, why y'all again? But they don't say that to nobody else. They don't say that. It's only us. This conversation only comes up with us. All right, well, real quick, let me go. Respect the comments. And I apologize, Pastor Reggie Brown. I know you've been in here, and I wasn't able to really jump in, so my apologies. I won't be able to get all of them. I try to get a few of them on screen, but he did say, could you ask South Central Conservative, what is the number one way wealth is built, and why is black wealth far less than that of whites? It was built on the transference of wealth from housing. I guess I lose what I'm saying. So yeah, your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that is, how are we gonna compete when we killing each other? How are we gonna compete when there's no population to we can't compete. They're the most of the population. Like, how are we gonna compete if we killing each other in the womb and we killing each other on the streets? Most of the black folks is not in Mississippi. We in the inner cities amongst each other, and we gang now. So how are we gonna compete? We X each other out in the beginning of our adolescence. We destroying each other.
Okay,
It's
so
in the
let's
mindset and
so,
the
so
culture.
good point. But so let's just to shave that off, right? Let's not talk about the those of us that never made it, because we got killed off in the womb. Let's not talk about the small fraction of us that probably ain't trying anyway, because all groups have that. No need to build our case on our lowest common denominator, right? So like, let's more focus on those of us like what we see on screen now, those that are actually out there with businesses, grinding, putting things together, getting information, and trying to build something for themselves and their families. I'm saying because there's millions of those that we can actually have a conversation about without having a conversation about those that aren't in that race anyway. So for those in the race, let's base the question on that.
Okay, but that's very unfair to say, because when I first started off with, we now be able to compete, you said, well, we really not competing. So how are we really not competing if we cannot change the percentage of wealth if we killing each other? There's no way. How can we, if the population of them is what? For every one of us is 10 of them, you're not going to change the transfer of wealth. We can't even compete if we're not even in the game. My thing is, we're doing ourselves a very disservice and saying, hey, how is this happening? If we literally having children at the same rate as we always have, and the things are still the same way, and we have the same amount of culture. We have this. At the end of the day, there's no way we gonna compete because culture plays a big part in it, right? Because then a person could be raised up in a $1 million family and lose it all due to culture. But if they have a strong father that teaches them the ropes, it's different. We don't have fathers at home. We don't have this. We destroying ourselves, and we don't give each other a chance because just like how he said, right? He was raised in a sundown town or raised in these racist areas, which is fine, right? And you are a product of your environment. There wherever you at, most of the, like you said, wherever you at, the crime happens. So if there's white people next to you, shit, you might be, I'm not saying I never made the argument that racism don't exist. I get it. There's white thugs, there's black thugs. But at the end of the day, my question is, if we all like niggas from California, we say niggas could game bang all day, and we know the same thing, why don't we treat each other better? Because we know we ain't got no chance. We know we fighting to get to this spot. Why are we pulling each other down? Because where all of us are at, we partaking in the foolery when we supposed to be treated fair and give each other a chance, but we don't. Why is that?
I don't know. I also don't know the answer to your question that he asked. So I'm gonna go to Daquan. I know you wanted to respond.
Yeah. So my question is, do we know how crime what crime comes from? What is the driving factor for crime?
It could be culture. It could be
Culture.
yeah, it could be culture. It could be how do I say this? Poverty. It could be poverty. It could
Okay.
be
Now we know.
anything, but it doesn't matter. It's
All right, so I said I asked that to ask this because where do you think the culture comes from?
come from us.
Right. How do you think we gain that culture?
I don't.
Because let's do this. We I think a lot of problems that we have is that sometimes we can't start from the beginning. They always say you cut the snake off by the head. If we start from the beginning, Africans were brought to this country, not African Americans. There was a different culture there.
But we can go back now. Like
No. What I'm saying is there was a different culture there. So when we came here, there was a culture that was taught, right? So if you do know like the term ghetto, right? You know where that came from, you know where that started. That started in Germany with the Jewish folks. Whenever the Nazis had them, and then what they did was they started putting them in these little areas. Once they started trying to get them out of the areas that were in, that's where the ghetto thing came from, right? So that's what happened with us. Whenever they finally said, you know what, let's go out here. You know, we're gonna put them out there. We're gonna do whatever they say. We can't do Jim Crow no more.